welcome back to hour number 2 of Tampa Home Talk. I'm your host, Katrina Madewell, here with my co-host, Leo Kane.
Woohoo!
Barrel
Engineering and Inspection. We have everyone here from the last hour, too. We got Adam Talley.
Almost.
Talley Insurance.
Left. Yes. And he's got another
insurance guru.
We're going to give you another insurance tip, a little bit different.
A little bit different, yeah. Absolutely.
Preparedness coming up around the halfway mark. And Daniel Evans, this show is so right on time for you to stick around for hour 2. But Pat, do we have our guest with us today, Mr. Ron Dell from Curb Appeal Specialist?
Of course we do, and he's ready to talk. He's right there online.
Good morning, Ron.
Good morning.
You know, Pat, we were
Katrina,
talking. Hey, thanks so much for coming. We love to mess with Pat George a little bit, and we were talking to him, wanted to make sure you're on the line when the intro was rolling in, and I think that's always recorded. Pat George did it, and it plays. I think we want you to just do it live one day, Pat, and see how you do.
That was live.
I told you that's why he wasn't responding to you.
No.
Nobody listens to me.
All right. So good morning, Ron. We actually have our appraiser extraordinaire, Danielle Evans, hanging out with us for hour 2. She's going to talk a little bit about how this whole curb appeal thing works as well on the appraisal side. So welcome to the show. We missed your presence here in the studio, but we're glad to have you by phone.
Well, thanks. Like we do sometimes out in the field, we adapt to situations and we roll on, right?
That's right. Roll with the punches, right? No matter what they are. So let's talk a little bit about your company and what you guys do a little bit different. How long you've been around, and when you think about the name of the company, Curb Appeal Specialist, say more about that.
Well, we're a local family-owned small business, really committed to helping people with improving the curb appeal of their largest asset, your specialty, their home. We work hard to provide exceptional service at competitive prices and always be honest, treat people like we'd like to be treated, like family.
Definitely.
We're licensed and insured. We've got liability coverage. We're BBB accredited with an A+ rating, and we stand behind our work.
Ron, how long have you been doing this? How long have you been in this space?
Well, I've been doing it part-time for several years, but it's just the last couple of years that it's become a full-time thing, and really because there was such a demand that I rolled over into the full-time aspect.
Say more about that. Like, what kind of demand, what sort of things are you guys doing?
Well, everything that we do contributes to the curb appeal of your home, right? There's landscaping, sprinkler tune-up repairs, gutter cleaning, power washing, paver sealing, all of these things that really contribute to that curb appeal, that initial impression, whether it's buyers or it's guests or anything coming to your home. Our power washing includes both pressure washing and soft washing, and we go from roof to curb and everywhere in between.
Let's talk about the difference between pressure washing and soft washing, especially as it pertains to the roof, because that's a very good topic to spend a moment on.
Absolutely. Soft washing is a low-pressure process, and we use that to wash surfaces like roofs, screen enclosures, stucco, and siding, so that they won't be damaged by the use of high pressure. In soft washing, we use solutions to help remove dirt and sanitize these surfaces with a pressure that is similar to what you'd get from your garden hose.
Leo, do you want to comment on that? Because you see the flip side of that on the inspections, right? When people have been up there trying to pressure wash their roof on their own.
Yeah, they need to change the word. Low wash, pressure wash needs to be completely renamed because people
no wash.
They'll wash it. They'll high pressure wash it. Yeah, I see the do-it-yourself roof ruinings of basically subjecting your roof to a hurricane.
What's the difference? Like, what's
Leo,
the best way?
It makes me cringe when I see that too.
What's the best way to make sure that someone is cleaning the roof the right way?
You hire a professional like Curb Appeal Specialist.
What are you guys using, though?
We're using a combination of things. It's an algicide, a degreaser, and a surfactant. We're finding that we've got a nice mix going, and by using that, we avoid using the pressure that can easily take 5 to 10 years off the life expectancy of your roof.
So it's the chemicals likely followed by a rinse, right? More than a wash. Fair?
Yeah, and it depends upon the situation. We do all types of different roofs. We do asphalt, barrel tile, concrete tile, and every situation different, whether there are gutters present or not. and we weigh all those factors into making that decision.
And so, because I definitely want to talk about that, the difference between, I've seen people literally up there on a Saturday morning, and the thing that irritates me the most is a lot of these are in the HOA communities where the HOA sent them a letter that says, power wash your roof or pressure wash your roof. I think there should be some liability there, really.
Or some instructions on what that means.
Yeah.
I mean,
they're using the wrong words and they're sending these letters out. So what are some of the benefits of soft rinsing this roof?
Well, you want to make sure, in most cases, that dark color that you see, the streaks or the really dark color, that's algae. That's algae growing on your roof, and you need to kill the algae all the way down to the root. If you just blow hot or high pressure water at it, you're going to take off the top, but that algae is going to grow right back, just like a pruned plant or the grass that you mow. So you need to do that primarily, removing the dirt, the fungus, the algae, all of those things. The flip side is then you also need to protect the rest of the property, the plants, the house, all those things, and make sure that the solutions that you use don't cause any problems there.
So the stuff you're using, is it safe on the neighboring plants and that sort of stuff?
Yeah, it's the solutions we use are safe for people, plants, animals, and stuff, all once they're dry. And we take precautions during the process by either tarping, and we always flush before, during, and after, rinsing all the plants, rinsing the walls and things down to make sure that they don't have any ill effects from the results of the solution.
Some of the other things you guys do on your list is you also mulch the garden beds and make sure there's no weeds. That's a big deal. So what are some of the benefits when you decide to mulch a garden bed?
Well, the University of Florida Extension Office says there's 3 primary reasons for mulching a bed. One is, and this is a primary one for most people, is to decrease weeds and help keep weeds from sprouting in there at all. The other is that you maintain the soil temperature, keep it from going over the roller coaster with the sun coming on and off, and maintain the moisture. It helps hold moisture in and can help lower people's water bill.
Now,
lastly, it makes it look good.
Yeah. Danielle, for you, just out of curiosity, and we were talking about this a little bit on the break, and I was saying, all right, so yeah, chime in on this. Like, as an appraiser, I'm never seeing any line item adjustments for curb appeal, right? Or amazing landscape.
There's no line item
your
adjustment.
Answer was great.
But you pick your comps based on the most similar. So when we're looking at MLS, we're not just looking at the outside of the house. We're looking at the interior photos, and then we drive by the house. The comparable sale, we are required to drive by it and take a photo of it. And if the subject property has an immaculate landscape, you're going to go look for comps that have the same exact features. I appraised a house yesterday. I appraised it a year ago. These people had no idea that it was the same appraiser coming.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool because COVID is actually allowing this to happen to make life easier for everybody involved. And when I get out there, because they weren't there the first time I appraised it, the house was vacant. It was when they bought it.
Was it all weeds in the flower bed?
The whole house was completely gutted, beautiful house. I was thinking to myself, there's nothing these people could have done to their home. Here I'm coming back a year later. They must have just maintained it. Oh no. I get out there. The landscaping is gorgeous, front yard and backyard. They put in a well, put in a sprinkler system, and during the pandemic, they put in a pandemic pergola, and they literally over the top. And then in the end, they actually, in less than a year, they've made $55,000 in equity.
Great.
Based on the comps that were chosen.
So you picked much better ones this time around.
Picked much better comps
awesome.
Because now it's truly top to bottom. Every single feature of this house is done, and there's nothing left for them to do.
Okay, great. So when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about the clearing of the gutters. How often and how regular should you do that? Ron and his company are doing that. And we'll also have Danielle and Leo comment on that in terms of what you guys think when you see it, especially when it's rainy, right? And gutters are full, or there's little trees in there. And from an inspector standpoint.
Or if they're not existent, if they're not there at all. That's the worst.
Yeah, we'll chat about that in a moment. Our off-air number, 813-377-2775. You can call or text us with any of your questions with regards to curb appeal or otherwise. 813-377-2775. We'll be back right after this quick break. Stick around.
Well, good morning. Welcome back. Leo Kane with Barrel Engineering and Inspection, joined with a whole slew of people on how to make your the exterior of your house look better. And with the exterior of your house looking better, the interior of your house feels better.
We can just call curb.
No, it's serious.
Look good, feel good. That's what they're saying.
No. I mean, I'm being serious because if you think about it, if your gutters are cleaned out, you don't have trees growing in your gutters, you don't have root systems growing to your attic. If you clean your stucco and you make sure your paint is properly maintained, you're not getting water intrusion, you're not growing mold in your windowsills, you're not getting leaks and ruining your floorboards. So yeah, if the outside of your home looks good, the inside of your home feels good.
Leo, why does it even matter if people clean their gutters regularly?
Well, if you don't, you'll get a reverse pitch in your gutters. The water won't drain out. The gutters will actually start to pull the eave off the side of your roof. Tree roots will grow into your attic. You'll get mold, you'll get squirrels, you'll get rats, you'll get rat feces. You'll end up with a whole bunch of things that make you, it smells horrible, and you start having asthma and breathing problems and respiratory
problems. And then you go to sell it, and then Leo has to go up in the attic and see all that nonsense.
But what happens if you don't have the gutters at all?
Well, that could lead to, actually, that's a great question. That could lead to settlement. So when you don't have the gutters, you end up with all the water coming off on the side of your house in sheets, basically hitting that soil. So you'll see like a little ravine, and that's your soil
like a little mini trench.
We call it the moat.
The moat, yeah.
It's the moat.
but that happens over time. All that soil starts to wash away. You start to get settlement cracks in the side of your house.
And every single appraiser notes it in your appraisal.
So Ron, we might as well just call this like the curb appeal specialist honeydew. I'll take care of that list for you because Honey didn't, right? So how often should you guys clean the gutters? How often are you doing it on a well-maintained home?
Well, it really depends on the house. If you've got a mature neighborhood where there's a lot of tree coverage and things like that, it can be, twice or more even a year. If you're in a neighborhood where you don't have those kinds of factors, it can be every 2 or 3 years. It really depends on the situation, and we're happy to go up on our ladders, take a look, take some pictures to be able to show you and provide our recommendations.
Make sure those gutters are clear as we roll into storm season. Like that should be on everybody's list right now.
They should be installing them should be on everybody's list, because forget them flying off in the hurricane. The insurance will put them back on. For them to not be there is detrimental to your home, the life of your home. And I cannot believe this state does not require gutters as part of code to build all these new construction homes. Not one of them is required to have a gutter. And yet we still have sinkhole claims that nobody knows where they came from.
So do you see that very common? Because you sell a lot of new construction homes.
Yeah,
none of them have
with no gutters.
None of them have gutters. None of them.
That is an extra feature that you probably don't want to buy from the builder.
And you will not buy. I don't even think I don't think that the builder offers it in many places. Depends on the builder, and it needs to be a little bit higher up from the Walmart builders, but most builders don't even offer them.
Gosh, Walmart's building homes. I didn't know that.
You get what I'm saying. I'm not going to name names.
They do attempt to sell insurance.
They do?
No.
They try.
They tried to be a bank too, didn't they?
Yeah, they keep trying. Hey, good for them.
Gotta horizontally integrate.
Yeah.
One of the other things that Ron does is actually the resanding and the sealing of the pavers out by the pool, right?
Absolutely.
And so can we talk a little bit about that? Like, what's that process? How do you do it? How often should you do it?
Well, again, that depends a little bit on the situation. Resanding and sealing pavers, when you look at those pavers and they're wet after the rain and they've got this really nice color pop and everything, sealers can make that happen all the time. So you've got that kind of thing. They protect the pavers from water damage, from UV damage, protect from stains, make it easier to clean. And one of the pet peeves of a lot of people is preventing the wee and the algae and stuff from growing on the pavers.
Yeah,
And
so
they-
if you're
they
seeing
look
some
in
stuff
place
there
over
in the
time.
grooves, that's a good sign. It needs to be resealed. And if you're seeing this beautiful color when it rains and it fades to a dull, that's another sign that it probably needs to be resealed, right?
And driveways.
Absolutely.
Paver driveways are huge in new construction right now.
What's the cost to re-sand and seal, and what's the process? How long does it take?
Well, it's a 2-day process. Some people come in and do it in 1 day. We don't like to do that because we like to make sure that the pavers are dried. They're going to accept the sealer as much as possible, let it absorb in, let it get down into those joints, solidify the sand. But first, we get in there on the first day and we remove all that old dirt and algae and weeds and sand and everything from in between the pavers, clean the pavers on top. It's a 4-step process. Then we come in the next day, we properly sand it with a C144 sand. Leo, you probably know all about that. That is a masonry sand, not beach sand or sandbox sand. It's a proper sand that's used, gets down in there.
It's a
Then we
fine
use
grit,
one
right?
sand
Like a
to
really
seal
small
it.
grit sand.
It is, and it's very angular, so it kind of grabs on rather than like beach sand is really round.
Did you learn something for trivia, Leo?
No, I knew about different sands and sand grates. I mean, yeah.
Imagine being so smart you get accused of knowing stuff. I love that.
I know. That's
know.
just awesome. But yeah, I did know that. And I have studied different.
You knew it too. That's so funny.
I just. Well, it's
He knows a lot about the sea turtles, and there's sand around them.
It's
so.
important to make sure you're using the right base material, and that's what it comes down to, especially with pavers. Because if you don't use the fine sand, you end up with like grass, for lack of a better word, growing up between the bricks, and no one likes that. Last thing you want to do is have to mow your pavers.
That's like, it's irritating. Like when I see it, even on a property, and there's a little weed growing up, I'm like, oh, rip it out.
Well, how about the ones that do it on purpose, where they're like spaced purposely, like
with the
that,
grass
with
in
the grass
between.
in between.
I
If
think it's gorgeous.
outside, like outside, fine, but not like by your pool.
Yeah, but how do you cut that?
when
You
my
just
appraiser
scissors?
says something's gorgeous, I like to hear that.
It's so gorgeous. It really is.
That
where
means
it's
my
the
value's
paver.
going up
I've
and
seen
up
the
and
paver
up.
with the grass lines in between.
Your
It's
wife's value,
The
didn't she?
It's got to be the most difficult thing in the world. You could probably only weed whack it. I don't think you could run a lawnmower over it,
No.
but it is gorgeous.
I do like
and
it.
if you've ever seen it in person, it's that much more gorgeous in person. You're like, wow, this takes some work. And you can see the landscapers put the lines the opposite way of the pavers, and it's the whole setup is intriguing. It's amazing to see.
So one of the things that you guys don't do, Ron, is the concrete curbing around the garden beds and the trees. Say more about that.
Well, we steered away from that because, quite frankly, and everybody's seen our famous oak trees around here, and the roots spread, and they lift the sidewalks and lift driveways and even lift foundations. That you put concrete curbing in, and chances are in 3 to 5 years, it's going to be all cracked and broken up. What do you do at that point? You rip it out and you replace it. You have to pay for it all over again. We do castle block pavers, and we can build those around and put nice flexibility. There's a variety of colors and things that they're all available in, but they have some flexibility when those roots start coming up. And or if we need to, we can actually take them and move them without having to just totally replace the entire system.
Those are the same as the retaining wall stones, right?
Yeah, very similar.
Okay. Awesome. Well, a lot of really great information, and a lot of these things, they really matter. I mean, you heard it directly from Daniel Evans. The comps that they pick for your home will be significantly different based on your curb appeal of your home. So curb appeal absolutely matters, and I can tell you I've pulled up to properties with buyers, and literally the buyer doesn't want to go into a scheduled home because they don't like the curb appeal of the outside.
I've dealt with that as well.
So don't let that be you. Ron Dell, thanks so much for joining us this morning with Curb Appeal Specialist. And if you want to connect with him, our off-air number is 813-377-2775. Again, 813-377-2775. Ron, thanks so much for the information this morning.
Thank you very much for having me.
And Danielle, it's so interesting because, we were talking about some of the things you guys make an adjustment for. And I don't know, I kind of feel like landscape and some of the curb appeal things should be on there.
When people realize not every appraiser adjusts for the cage on the pool.
Wow.
It's constant maintenance.
There's a lot of money.
It's constant. It's just
could
pour
probably-
that money right in that pool.
We could probably
and just
do
keep
a
shoveling
whole-
it in there.
We could do a whole show
Yeah.
on things that cost you $10,000 or more that you never get credit for in an appraisal.
And it costs the maintenance is the
you
reason
have coverage
why.
for in an insurance policy. Like
Yeah.
if you want your
Ooh, those
screen,
might be
if you want
topics.
your screen enclosure covered, that's for a hurricane. That's an extra coverage.
Oh,
it's not built
yeah,
in.
It
definitely.
better be.
It's not built in.
It better
So
be.
think about that.
I can see that as an a la carte item for
Oh, yeah.
sure. I personally would not have a cage. Everybody else is all for it, must have a cage.
Let me
In
tell you what.
My opinion, mosquito control and no cage. That's my preference.
We've got a cage, and what we did a while back was did the 10 times stronger like special order pet screen because we had some big dogs that would just run right through the screen, and so we had to put this and like a barrier on the bottom part of the screen. What I will tell you is it significantly blocked the UV rays because we put it on the top. So there's a big difference in the temperature of your pool.
Yeah, that's why I wouldn't have a cage on the pool. I don't want to pay to heat it. That's number one for me. I also want to lay on the pool and see the sun.
Depends
And
on where you
I
live.
don't-
If you're in one of those
I'll put
mature
the
neighborhoods
sunscreen
with the
on
oak
my
trees.
body. Let the screens they're sun protected. You will never get a sunburn.
All right, this is Tampa Home Talk, and our off-air number is 813-377-2775. You can call or text with any questions, 813-377-2775.
And welcome back to Tampa Home Talk. This is Adam Talley with Talley Insurance, and we've been talking all about hurricanes and curb appeal today, and we have a little bit of current events coming up, but we did want to touch on one other thing about hurricanes, and that's business preparedness, right? Because we talked about preparing yourself and your family and your home, but if you're a small business owner, just like when COVID hit, you need to have a plan. Because if you can't go into your store or whatever, and that's the way that you make money, you need to have a contingency plan. What do you have? Well, I guess you're a realtor, so you're a little bit more mobile. But,
I don't know. You tell me because you wrote my insurance policy. I have no idea what I have, Adam.
Well, you do have some loss of business income, which triggers if, let's say, yeah.
I did lose some. Should I be filing a claim? Just saying. Only if you need to, right? Isn't that the
only
golden
if
answer?
you need to, yeah. But I mean, like we said with the COVID stuff, that it's such a unique situation. I've been telling everybody to call the carrier and ask them the questions on the claim side because it's unique and they need to handle it themselves. But loss of business income, if you have signage, there's all sorts of things that are in play that you want to make sure you can be whole again, especially if you own the building that you're.
Or you live and work in the same place.
Yeah.
If you work from home, I lost my home. It had 1.5 foot water in it. So I was lucky enough that I had a battery converter and a car battery, and I was able to literally start up the laptops and continue to accept work until I could get to a hotel. But it was almost too scary to go. Like, I didn't have a plan.
Yeah.
So it was makeshift, and it was not fun.
Part of a plan for us at least is, if a hurricane hits, we're probably one of the people that people want to call or at least look into. So we try to make sure that all of the contact info for the carriers and everything is listed on our website. Obviously, all I need is internet and a phone. But if I don't have a house, I don't know where my internet or phone's going to come from. So you know what I mean? So you need to have a plan for your business.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Yep.
If a storm comes, like for me, it's like a vacation because that means I get a couple days off. Like,
It means like no days off for Leo.
yeah,
but-
you guys have
For
to work.
appraisers too, we have to go back to every single house we've appraised in the past 6 months and take a picture of it and make sure it's still standing and
We got
send
to
it.
redo all those 4 points.
We
Yeah.
we have to
That's
redo
huge.
a
We
lot
do
of
have to
work.
get to work, but we get a little break.
We don't get any break. The
We get
minute
no
the
break.
eye passes over our home, we are expected
Get to
to
work,
be
girl.
out and working. And for so many years, we do it. We keep doing it every year. But sometimes I wonder why they haven't found a peon to do it. You know what I mean? Somebody that's not licensed. It's
and
a lot of work.
If you're going to be looking at houses this summer, we can issue an insurance policy 30 to 45 days before you're,
Find a house?
Yeah, well, because what I'm saying is if you are buying that house, don't wait until that week before closing to figure out your insurance. We can figure it out a month in advance, get that thing issued for you, and then you don't have to worry about when the storm comes. Because the most frustrating thing is, let's say a storm's going to hit the Panhandle. Well, I might still be shut down here in Tampa, and we never even get a tropical storm warning. But if the carrier shuts down the entire state, they shut down the entire state. And as options are going to be more and more limited,
and if we're under a state
choices.
of emergency for one county, the whole state is affected.
Right.
We dealt with that with
we have a big state.
Michael.
So, yeah.
And we're currently still under a state of emergency.
Because of COVID, it really messes with my job.
We get overlapping states of emergencies.
Right now is
2 negatives make a positive.
Only in math.
It almost feels like a buzzword, right?
it's just a bunch of red tape.
Yeah.
Right now.
All right, so let's talk about the elephant on the fence, shall we, Leo?
Elephant on the
I
fence.
thought we weren't a political talk show.
We're not,
we're
we
not.
have
But
to
this
talk
is
about
just
this.
too good to be true.
It's not political at all. We're just going to talk about the facts, right? There was an
There's
executive order.
an executive order aimed at basically social media.
Let's talk about it. What do you say more?
Well, basically, social media, it's interesting because you hear stories from the right complaining that YouTube is censoring content that is too conservative, or Twitter is editing tweets, or Facebook is editing posts. And you have to think, are these organizations, are these private organizations, are these media outlets? We call it social media, but is it really social media, or is it just a business with a platform that allows people to speak? So these platforms are starting to edit some of their content creators. And when you edit Trump, whose tweets are hilarious to read on a regular basis,
I mean, really,
he's going to fire back.
I don't think anybody should be edited. I think if you, I mean,
I think
part
that's
of the
our
freedom of
right.
speech,
That's the whole
right?
reason why we live here. It's why
I
I live here.
Freedom of speech is, if you take the First Amendment at its core, it's the government's not going to edit the press. The government's not going to stop right of assembly. The government's not going to do blah, 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 blah. Organizations can censor. Organizations can stop assembly. They can stop union. The government can't do that, but individual private organizations can. If the government's going to impose First Amendment on the private sector, then really they're overreaching, because it's the government is the First Amendment. So you have to keep that in mind. A lot of people are like, First Amendment, and they don't know what they're really talking about. It says the government is not going to do this to you. Walmart stopping people from unionizing has nothing to do with the First Amendment. And that's something you have to take into account. So, of course, on the CNN article, because CNN's very anti-Trump, in big, bold face, it says could violate the First Amendment, which is not factually correct. So I, as a media outlet, am censoring CNN. So does that mean that I'm in violation of the social media executive order?
God, I hope somebody from CNN's listening.
I mean,
right now.
the interesting part.
I would love to
though,
be called out on CNN.
The interesting part, though, is as you read or watch or whatever some of these different news organizations, you can clearly see, for the most part, on a lot of these, which way they swing, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's just every single piece of news, if you will, or articles that are put out tend to swing one way or the other.
News shouldn't have an opinion.
It has
Correct.
to. When news is on
It shouldn't,
24
though.
hours a day, 7 days a week, and you have 4 or 5 flavors of news, I think NBC has 3, CNN has 4, MSNBC is part of NBC. But I mean, when you have so many different flavors of news on 24 hours a day, it's going to be biased. It has to have a slant. It has to have an opinion, because how else are you going to fill the time?
When did all this start? Was it the Clinton impeachment? When was it that it really turned, that it shifted from real reliable news to fake news? When in our lives did this happen?
When the transition from Anchorman 1 to Anchorman 2 happened with Will Ferrell. And that Anchorman 2 movie is brilliant. And Will Ferrell has some brilliant comedies, and I know Katrina has no idea what I'm talking
I
about.
have no
'cause
idea
the
what you're
movie.
talking about.
But basically with Anchorman was a parody on 70s media. Mm-hmm. And Anchorman 2 was Anchorman transitioning into modern media. Will Ferrell's character Ron Burgundy has a brilliant idea to do 24/7 news and create news so they can talk about it and it's just hilarious satire on where we became in the media to have 24/7 news.
I mean, have you watched some of it though? Like, have you watched, like, especially when you get around political campaign time, right? And it's time for
Well,
people
what about the COVID? What about the whole COVID when we're all sent home, told we can't go anywhere, can't do anything? For essential employees, you're required to watch the news to know where you can go and what you can do. I haven't really watched the news. I'm more of a reader of the newspaper. And so when all this COVID came, I had the TV running. And I'm looking at it going, I've never seen that TV on. Now all of a sudden it's on the news 24/7. And it was real fear. It was just instilling fear to the point after 2 weeks of it, I was ready to be put on antidepressants.
Yeah.
I was just, it was numbing because I had to go out to go to work. Everybody else just gets to stay home and stay safe.
Well, I don't really watch much of the news either because I think some of it's kind of rogue, really. It's not independent. Here's the facts. You form your own opinion. Like, there's just not enough of that.
I think it's
watch
brainwashing.
it when a hurricane's coming, so
Yes,
I can
that's
see
what
it
I
move
said.
every
Me too.
15 minutes. Just
Hurricanes. And I think
I
the
just
only
want-
time my
when a
TV comes on is when
I
there's a
started watching
hurricane.
it when COVID started, and I was right there
Yeah.
with you. After 2 or 3 days, I'm like I can't watch
I
this
can't
anymore.
do
I
it
just turned it off. And I mean, a lot of people talk bad about Florida governor and Florida politics and Florida's treatment of COVID. But there's been so many times that the governor did the right decision. The media slammed him for it. He had data to back it up. And then the media just kind of moved on to something else. It's like they were quick in COVID to shoot bullets at all politicians who were doing anything.
My daughter and I went to every beach that was on social media and on the news showing droves of people in the wrong. They had the wrong clothes on. So, these are old photos. But I was on St. Augustine Beach. My daughter and I were the only two people there. We went to Jacksonville. Because I travel for my job. My daughter was out of work. We decided to go and hit some places. And every single place that we went to, Clearwater Beach, St. Pete, Treasure Island, they're all empty. Everybody's staying in their houses. You go on social media and it's just fake. Everything is fake. And I have TikToks made for the past 3 months of every beach I've been on that's empty. And the news is saying it's
So
full.
now we have an interesting point. We're just saying that there's a lot of fake information out there misleading the public on social media. This executive order would go against those social media companies editing and fact checking and removing the fake information out there. So that's the flip side of this executive order. So what you're saying is basically there was so much fake news out there. No one was regulating the fake news. Social media was a platform to expound your fake news, and that's dangerous as well.
Yeah.
So that's the other side of the equation. But what I think this executive order is attacking is the fact that they're only
Trump got edited.
they're only fact checking and they're only attacking conservative viewpoints. And YouTube was brought up on that several months ago. But that's where this is coming from. If they were fact checking everything, it'd be different. But they're only fact checking according to the media that's covering the media's coverage of the media's decoverage.
Think about how crazy that just sounds.
Yeah.
I can't even follow it.
But yeah, there's been a lot of press out there by the conservative media talking about the social media's basically editing and censorship. So it's kind of like you got to do it both ways, but you don't have enough people to do it both ways. You can't monitor Twitter to the point they run algorithms. That's how they monitor Twitter. Yeah. Unless it's Trump, because then he's big and famous.
They got like one guy to follow him.
And it's funny. It's his tweets are
There's
just funny.
probably one person's job just to follow him.
I mean, going back to that though, and like the question that one of you guys asked is like, when did it change? I'll tell you when I noticed it, and I'll save it for the break because I'll give my opinion on this. It's a little bit political. It's probably the most political I think I've really ever gotten.
Oh, we're pulling it out of her today,
We're doing
Leo.
political today.
But-
813-377-2775.
What I'm gonna say
813-377-2775 is what you're going to say.
right after the break, I don't think anybody will disagree with.
I might.
You might. I don't think you
Adam
will.
might.
We're stirring the pot
We'll
here.
be back in a break. 813.
We got all political.
2775. Stick around. We'll be back for another exciting final segment of Tampa Home Talk. Stick around.
Well, good morning. Welcome back to final segment of, we get to hear Katrina's political views. I'm so excited. I've never heard Katrina's political views.
It's not, though. I'm not going to share that.
Wait, you're
the
not?
The question was...
You're just going to ask a question.
No. What we were talking about was, when did it change, right? Like, when did news and media and, like, all this mayhem that we're seeing like, how did we get here, right? With this executive order. And if you ask me, I started to see a change right around the time that Obama was elected, okay? And it has not changed. So you think, what, Trump's been in for 4 years. We had 8 years before that with Obama, so 14 years ago. I saw that, and here's where I saw, this is the one thing that, I don't care who you are or who you vote for, right? There's always a political party that I don't like
just as long as you
either.
vote.
Yes.
Exactly.
Right.
You can't complain if you don't vote.
The point is, and even when you think about complaining, here's what's different about like this last 15-year generation compared to before. Before, if somebody was elected, let's just say Reagan or even Clinton, right? You didn't see people really bashing our president and doing the things back then. And granted, social media.
Wait, back up one before Clinton.
I know I'm missing one.
They bashed him entirely. That would be the Bush.
They did.
Bush.
Not
Bush.
big
They-
Bush
almost-
fans in the media.
I mean, here's the thing, though. And I saw it just become like over the top, I think, when Obama was elected. And so whether you like him or you don't, whether you like Trump or you don't, it doesn't matter. You get your vote. That's the point of this country. And whoever is elected by the majority. So whether you agree with them or not, they're still your president. And you should be standing behind them and respecting them, whether that was Obama or Trump. It doesn't matter who it is. And you may not agree with a lot of the things they are doing. But the point is, the majority voted that president in, and they should have the support of the American people.
The Electoral College.
Yeah, there's an argument that the majority
You're
did
right.
not vote
You're right.
the
They have to have
president
the
in.
electoral vote.
Well, until they prove
They-
otherwise,
they have
it
to-
is what it is.
Yeah.
This is who we have, and we have the ability to vote them out, and people have to show up to do that if that's what they want to do.
Yeah, but I mean, that brings about a fundamental flaw in the electoral college system. You can have California overwhelmingly vote, which is late in the election day, and that could actually tip. Several presidents lately have been elected because they've lost California. They've lost California by a substantial amount, but they still win the election because of the electoral college system.
Yeah.
So the election is ended up decided by 7 states. Thank you, Florida, for being one of them. But there's really only like 7 states that decide an entire election. So when
I think it's flawed, though. I mean, because
Yeah.
when you look at even a candidate like Ross Perot, right? Registered independent, he's never, ever going to get voted in with the way the system is set up right now because he
No.
won't get the electoral vote.
No, the electoral vote is so you have these 7 states. The politicians focus their ad campaigns like it's funny because like when I was growing up in Texas, we never saw political campaigns on TV. There's no point. It's a red state. No one blue will ever get elected. You'll get the mayor of Houston will be blue. You get the
Austin
will
yeah.
be blue. The rest of the state red. There's just no point. There's no point even campaigning. Meanwhile, Florida election season rolls round and it's like mudslinging all over the place.
It's bad in the areas that they have these. I just don't know how they're going to have these rallies with the COVID world. And I just hope that they actually open the voting and actually let us get out there and vote.
I'll tell you why I feel Trump got elected 4 years ago. I think overall that the American people are kind of tired of whoever is running for the president having a huge political agenda, right? Like not being for the American people and really like, something different. They wanted something different. That's why I think Trump got elected.
I firmly believe he got elected because he went to the 7 states. He went to 2 of the 7 states, and that was in the Detroit, Motor City area.
I'm sure it was part of the strategy.
And his strategy was to appeal to the people of those states and bring jobs back to America.
I agree.
And that's what got him to win. He
I
won the
really
swing
agree.
states.
He also had more voter registrations than any other president. Like he has had people, he's drawn people to the polls, and I'm not sure that's always been the case.
And I mean, I liked what Obama did. Obama was the first president to really grasp social media, really use
Yes.
it as a platform,
Yeah.
use it to
In a
get
Remember,
positive
they were
way,
they were taking
too.
his BlackBerry away from him for using it on Twitter. You remember that?
Yeah, I do remember that. And that's back when BlackBerries existed, where your keyboard wasn't actually just this invisible floating thing in the middle of your phone. But he revolutionized the way politics can be
Yes.
used with social media.
Definitely.
And now we're just seeing that pendulum still moving in the direction.
It's moved so so rogue that I'm worried about where it's going. Really, no matter who gets elected.
Especially when I have college kids, and with this COVID world that we're in, my kids were quarantined to their houses. They've lost their jobs. They're just sitting at home doing nothing, waiting for the world to reopen. And the college kids, they're listening to so many different opinions. They don't turn the TV on. They only listen to what's on social media and what's on their internet. And
you don't even have cable anymore. It's all
they
internet.
don't, and my college kids don't. And I've had to actually sit them down and say, this, and this, fact check, because you're sounding a little crazy. So I do, I think that the media is altering the opinions of the young, and I think that it's harsh.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't see why you would need cable anymore. I mean, between HBO Max, which launched yesterday, Disney Plus and Netflix and Amazon Prime, that's more than enough television than people can consume in several lifetimes.
Yeah.
Listen, I don't even watch TV. Like, y'all harass me almost every show over it.
I don't
watch
know,
TV
movie,
either.
movie references.
Oh, yeah,
We're
I've got
taking
movies,
movie
yeah, no.
references. That's what we
But
harass you about.
even so,
references around.
Yeah,
definitely
they are.
movie
Hey, turn
references,
that person
but
up.
even shows, right? Like, I don't watch that many shows. So
I don't watch TV either. It's not for me.
I have started watching Ozark. I'm the only one in my house that will watch it.
And I haven't watched Ozark, so see, now you're one up on me.
Yeah,
It's
I
the
haven't watched
first
it either.
season.
I have to
kinda
get through
boring.
100 hours of British baking television before I can move into Ozark.
I've easily seen 100 hours of British baking.
You've seen the Great British Baking
Oh yeah.
Show?
Oh yeah.
I'm in
These two.
I'm in the final 10
I
hours
know,
now.
every week.
When was the
Big
last
time.
time you saw a cooking show?
I love cooking shows.
Have not.
Watch them all the time.
Yeah, I cook all the
I got
time.
an Instapot
I'm still
for
waiting
COVID.
for my invitation. I'm just saying.
Big MasterChef fan.
All right, this has been a super fun hour.
That's how I'm so knowledgeable in everything. Food defines culture. And
It
I could
does.
talk for hours on how food defines culture and food brings people together. And I know so much about trivia because I know so much about food and food preparation and the history behind the food and the religion and the ethnicity behind food.
You heard it here first. Next time Katrina is out, we're doing a show on food.
Definitely.
Y'all have fun. Mimi's in trouble, and so is Pat if anything goes wrong. I'm just saying, like.
I'll swing by.
All right, this is Tampa Home Talker, off-air number 813-377-2775. You can call or text us, 813-377-2775. We're so glad you're here. Thanks for listening to us the last couple of hours. If you got an idea for the show, we're all ears. 813-377-2775. Love where you live, or I'll fix it. Welcome home.
Love where you live.